had to choose, would you prefer to run a marathon in an African desert without drinking water, or swim in water so cold that you have to cut through ice to get to it? Wim Hof has done both. He has learned how we can control our autonomic nervous system, as he tells us in his book, The Wim Hof Method, How to Activate Your Full Human Potential, 2020, with just 3 natural and simple pillars. Today we'll talk about Wim Hof, who he is and how he came up with his method. We'll talk about how the method works and learn about some of the scientific studies that have been done on it. Finally, we will hear about some of the people who use his method and how they apply it to their lives. Come take a swim with me into the world of Wim Hof. Wim Hof was born in 1959 in the Netherlands. He is a twin, and after his brother was born, the doctors didn't know that there was a second baby, and he almost died. His mom prayed and promised she would make the child a missionary if God would just let it live. Wim dropped out of school, and he is not ashamed of it at all. He is now teaching doctors and professors all over the world, and this is his mission. A big foundation for his thinking is just being out in nature, which as a species is not something humans do as much of as we should or were meant to. As a boy, he delivered newspapers in his cold, hilly city of Sittard in the Netherlands every day for 5 years straight. Being able to do that gave him strength and confidence. When he was just 17 years old, he saw a thin layer of ice on water and was instantly attracted to it. He thought to himself, "There's no one around, I should go and play in the water." So he did. He stripped off all of his clothes and got in. This was the birth of Wim Hof, the Iceman. Now that I have shared a little bit with you about Wim Hof and part of how he came up with his method, let's talk about how the method works and look at a couple of the studies that have been done on the method. The 3 natural and simple pillars of the method are cold immersion, conscious breathing, and power of mind, or meditation. Some of the benefits of practicing the Wim Hof method are more energy, less stress, a better immune system, better sleep, improved cognitive and athletic performance, a boost of your mood, and weight loss. Just one example of how this method works is that through cold exposure, you activate and work on your vascular system. Scott Carney tells us in his book, What Doesn't Kill Us, how freezing water, extreme altitude, and environmental conditioning will renew our lost evolutionary strength, 2019, that quote, without external signals and inputs that were designed by evolution over millennia, our bodies are simply not being called upon to perform what have always been critical functions. A study done by Otto Music and others on May 15, 2018, called Brain Over Body, a study on the willful regulation of autonomic function during cold exposure, concluded that there was evidence that Wim's central nervous system and not his body was mediating his response to cold exposure. They also suggest that there's evidence that people who practice the Wim Hof method might develop a higher level of control over parts of the autonomic system, and that practicing the method might improve multiple clinical syndromes. Another study done by H. DeWong and others, an add-on training program involving breathing exercises, cold exposure, and meditation, attenuates inflammation and disease activity in axial spondyloarthritis. A proof of concept trial, 2019, concluded that the add-on program can be safely applied in patients with spondyloarthritis, which is a prototype chronic inflammatory disease. They found that it also decreased inflammation and improved disease activity, function, and quality of life. Now you know some of the ways the method works and have heard about some of the studies that have been done. Let's talk about some of the people who use the method and how they apply it in their lives. Scott Carney, an investigative journalist for Playboy and author, tells us in his book, What Doesn't Kill Us, 2019, that he practices the Wim Hof method 5 days a week for about a half hour a day. He originally met Wim Hof when he went to Poland to expose him as a fraud for an article he was working on for Playboy. Wim told Carney at the beginning that if he really gave his program 100%, that after just 1 week of training, he would be able to climb snow-covered Mount Śnieżka, the highest mountain in Poland, in nothing but shorts and hiking boots. And they did it. Later, Carney joins Wim and a group of people as they climb Mount Kilimanjaro in a record time of under 2 days. In his book, Carney tells us about a visit he makes to Laird Hamilton at his home in Malibu, who just happened to have Orlando Bloom over working out and saw how they had adapted the method and gone a step further. They were working out underwater in Hamilton's pool with weights while holding their breath. Marissa Meltzer, a writer for the New York Times, in her article First It's Yoga, Next an Ice Bath, October 17th, 2019, tells us that she had absolutely no interest in the Wim Hof method, but when a friend talked her into trying it, she felt amazing. Hof has also worked with Navy SEALs and professional athletes. Why wait any longer? I bet you can't wait to jump in. Today we learned about Wim Hof and how he came up with his method. We looked into how the Wim Hof method works and learned about some of the studies that have been done on the method. Finally, we talked about some of the people using the Wim Hof method and how they apply it to their lives.